Wow. Hey, pura vida, mi gente. Much love and respect. Shabbat shalom. Pura vida, all the good things. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you guys taking the time to do that, especially on your Friday evening, you know. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Shout out to everybody in the live chat since we are live. Appreciate everybody here. Yeah. So right away, you know, this is part of a series. This is part five of the research we're doing, investigation, and just the origins of a person and a founder, right, of a big organization we all know. So you guys know what I'm talking about when I'm saying Wallace Fard, Muhammad. So this is the playlist right here. If you missed the previous parts, you can go to my playlist tab on my main page. You'll find a playlist called Wallace Fard, Muhammad, founder of the Nation of Islam. And you can see all the previous parts, you know, and a video at the end here related. Masons, Messiahs, Prophets, Paradise Lost, the Craft and the Crescent, huh? All right. So go ahead and catch up if you missed the previous parts. We're on part five today. All right. And we're in the vault. It says here vault.fbi.gov. We're in the vault. I guess this was part of the Freedom of Information Act. You know, they had to scan it and release it. You know, but it says here, Fard, comma Wallace D or Wallace D Fard, 372 pages. Man, we just get right into it. You know, I mean, you guys kind of know and what we read in the last previous parts. So we're just gonna go over some files here, some records, and it's very random, but it does tell a story as you keep going down. All right. It says here McDonald and Terran Wallace Max Ford. Had a lot of names, remember. All right, and actually, this is a birth certificate or a death certificate of one of his sons. And you can see Wallace listed here with Hazel Barton, the wife. He is being listed as white and from New Zealand. One of his, and he keeps restaurant, a waiter or manages a restaurant, right? And so this is what we're doing today. We're just gonna go over some of these files and records and read it ourselves. What the FBI was saying, police were saying about him and stuff. We know how there's hijack in it, but there's some truth in it too. So it's not just people targeting. Yeah, they will. They did eventually get targeted, but a lot of this stuff is true what they're saying about, some of the origins of what he was telling people, and his previous life before, ending up in Detroit, you know. So again, just try to keep it respectful. There's a lot of upset people. They're devoted. They got their whole faith and devoted all their lives into it. So let's just try to be respectful about it, in the live chat. Um, Hopefully we can help some people. This one says Hazel Ford. Yeah, this is his son's birth certificate. Yeah, this is in Los Angeles. What we're looking at here, state of California, Department of Public. It says Hazel Ford Evelizer. That's one of his ex-wives, and Wallace Fard right here. So this might be a marriage thing. Okay. It says here Wallace Ford, also known as Wally D. Ford, Wally Ford, Wallace Farad. It says records, Los Angeles Police Department, Wally Ford, Los Angeles Police Department. And there's the numbers arrested by Los Angeles Police Department on November 17th, 1918, way back in 1918 for assault with a deadly weapon and released. It says arrested by Los Angeles Police Department on January 20th, 1926 for a violation of the Woolwine Act, California Prohibition Law, possession and sale. So he was bootlegging and all that, and he had some other stuff. They say it was heroin at that time. Oh, I don't know what we read before, but we read in one of the parts. On March 4th, 1926, he was sentenced to a $1 fine or 1 day in jail on count 1 and to $400 fine or 180 days in jail on count 2. And then it says arrested by Los Angeles Police Department on February 15th, 1926 for violation of the State Poison Act, a felony. On May 28th, 1926, he was sentenced to a term from 6 months to 6 years and was received at St. Quentin Penitentiary on June 12, 1926. He was released from St. Quentin on May 27, 1929. So on a lot of the previous parts, we've shown the mugshots. Some of the thumbnails for the previous parts has the mugshots. We have one of them on this thumbnail from today. That's his younger one. It says Wally D. Fard. It says received at St. Quentin, June 12, 1926, from Los Angeles County, where he was convicted for violation of the State Poison Act. It says description. This is what he was telling people. Remember, he had a lot of different origins. We went over all the different origins. Yeah. So it says he was born in Portland, Oregon. That's one story he was telling people. February 25th, 1891. He did tell his dad's supposed real name, which we believe it is Sared or Sarad Fard or Ford, born in Hawaii, he told them. And then his mom was Beatrice Ford, born in Hawaii. So again, this is one of the origins we read about before. His occupation, his dad, operation of Ford Bottling Works, Honolulu, Hawaii. So maybe something to look into if that's a real company and stuff. And maybe his dad did work there and they lived. That's how they came through wherever part of the world they were coming from. They passed through Hawaii before coming to the States, maybe, possibly. Even New Zealand still plays in here. But that's something to follow up on. It says race white, right? Complexion dark, black, married, children, public schools, Portland, Oregon. Released from St. Quentin, May 27, 1929. While in St. Quentin, letter was received from Mrs. Hazel E. Osborne, described as his former wife, attesting to his character. Her address is 44 Mount Eagle Place. They were trying to get letters to help him get released early. He did receive a couple. So the interview by California State Parole authorities while at St. Quentin, Ford furnished following information. This is what he told the people in St. Quentin. He was born in Portland, Oregon in 1891 and lived in that city until 1913 when he moved to Los Angeles, where he resided until his arrest. He married Hazel Barton in Los Angeles when she was 26 years of age. One child resulted from this union. Okay, I just want to show that. I think I have a thumbnail. Yeah, right here. So this is him, right? Right. Look at the image. All right. Look, that's all him. Right. And right here they got him living, born in Oregon, right? So that Wallace Fard or Fard was also known as Wallace Fard Muhammad, and he was the founder of the Nation of Islam in 1930s in Detroit. All right, so you know the story. Now, Hazel Elizabeth Barton, that's her. That's, living straight up so-called white life with a white wife, white family, white son, white livelihood. I'm just saying, it's nothing against anybody. Just want to show you before he reached Detroit, one of his lives right here. And their kid they're talking about who had the same name is Wallace Max Ford is this guy right here. That's one of his sons, all right? Looking just like him, literally. Yeah, where is his death certificate? Good question. Good question. Yeah, good question. So it says, originally born in Los Angeles as Wallace Ford Jr., son of Wallace Ford and Hazel Barton. His name was legally changed in 1940 by his mother, Wallace Max Ford. He was killed in an accident in Living Haven, Rose, Virginia, while on the U.S. Coast Guard. He died pretty young, guys. Yeah, his son. All right, so again, his dad, Wallace Ford. Yeah. Wallace D. Fard, Detroit arrest, 1932. This is for 1926. All right. Okay, going back. Right, he had a child with Hazel Barton. Says Wallace Ford, male child, born September 1st, 1920. That's his son. All right. Father Wallace Ford, who now they're saying lives in Los Angeles. His race is white, and born in New Zealand. Now he's from New Zealand instead of Hawaii, right? or instead of Portland. Now he's from New Zealand. Remember all the different origin stories. His wife, maiden name Hazel Barton, Flower Street. It says birth certificate on September 2nd, 1920 of Harley Egg McDonald, physician. So again, this is his son that he had with that lady Hazel. Okay, so his records: Detroit, Michigan Police Department. Wallace Fard, Detroit Police Department, was arrested May 25th, 1933 by the Detroit Police Department for investigation. Described as follows: age 33, height about 5'8", weight 135 pounds, Arabian ancestry in parentheses. Remember, that's the story that he was from Mecca, right? Occupation: minister. No disposition shown in records. A photo was taken. Wallace Fard, Los Angeles Police Department, right? Arrested November 17th, 1918. Identical to Wally D. Ford, the same as Wally D. Ford. San Quentin, from San Quentin, the same person, guys. And to Wallace Fard, Detroit Police Department, are the same person. Last information as to whereabouts of this individual was in 1934. Son Wallace Fard, born in 1920, was killed in Lynn Haven Roads, Virginia, on August 3rd, 1942, while in the U.S. Coast Guard. All right, we just saw that on the funeral record. It says office memorandum, United States government. It says Wallace D. Fard, aka ISNOI. And we got some stuff here blacked out. Furnished a background memo, the subject which is attached here, and made part hereof, since it contains no additional pertinent data to that is already action. Okay, so it says background information on Wallace Dodd. This is Akron TV News and Documentary Department. Alias Fard, Farad, etc. Dodd, under the name Wallace D. Fard, is the founder of the Black Muslim sect, Lost Foundation of Islam in North America, and is considered by members of the sect the embodiment of God, the Messiah, etc. Elijah Muhammad, Elijah Poole, and his chief apostle and prophet. Wallace Dodd was born in New Zealand. All right, so now they have the New Zealand origin here. February 26, 1891. His father was British. His mother was Polynesian. Now, remember they were saying his dad was from Hawaii. His mom was from Hawaii too. Now all of a sudden, he's from New Zealand, and his dad is British, and his mom is Polynesian. Right? Remember the different origin stories we read about for Wallace Dodd Fard. Okay, we're in part 5. It says his FBI identification number is 56062. California of Bureau of Identification and Investigation lists him as Wallace Fard. And this is the number they have. At San Quentin, his was listed as Ford instead of Fard, right? Michigan State Police lists him as Wallace Farad. In Michigan, Los Angeles Police lists him as Wallace D. Fard, arrested for bootlegging January 20th, 1926. All right. Now listen, check this out right here. All of the above carry the same fingerprints. All right. They all had the same fingerprints on files, so that's how they knew, the FBI knew that was him. As much as the Nation of Islam, a lot of the people still don't want to admit, a lot of the people, even inside of the Nation of Islam, have videos on this and showing these files and telling you the same thing. But again, all these identities who are recorded, been arrested, right? They all carry the same fingerprints. In all cases, he is listed as Caucasian. He's always listed as Caucasian, so-called white man. So-called, right? Hey, Emmanuel Jr., that's funny. On the birth certificate of his illegitimate son, Wallace Dodd is listed as white. His common law wife, also listed as white, was named Hazel Barton. The certificate, filled out September 1st, 1930, was filed with the California State Board of Health September 2nd, 1930. Son named Wallace Dodd. His mother had it changed to Wallace D. Fard. The son is said to have drowned while serving in the Coast Guard in 1942. Wow. This would not check out, however, he would only be 12 years old. Dodd arrived in the United States from New Zealand. All right, this is the story he was telling them. In 1913, settled briefly in Portland, Oregon, he married but abandoned his wife and infant son. He lingered in the Seattle area as Fred Dodd for a few months, listen, then moved to Los Angeles and opened a restaurant at 603 West 3rd Street as Wallace D. Fard. He was arrested for bootleg in January 1926, served a brief jail sentence, also as Wallace D. Fard, identified on record as White. On June 12, 1926, also as Fard was sentenced to San Quentin for sale of narcotics at his restaurant. So he was like really doing it, right? He was hustling, right? He had a restaurant, cover it up, and he doing sign on the background, making that money, keeping it gangster, I guess, you know. And those times that was gangster, you know, but the bootlegging era, you know, the alcohol and all that. Also, it says as Fard was sentenced to San Quentin for selling narcotics. Okay, he got a 6 months to 6 year sentence, released from San Quentin May 27th, 1929. Prison record lists him as Caucasian, so-called white. After release, went to Chicago, then to Detroit as a silk peddler. Oh, matching the stories. His customers were mostly Negro, and he himself posed as a Negro. Hey, this ain't me saying it, man. I said he himself actually posed as a Negro, by the way, too, after living as a Caucasian, right? After coming in with that status, you know? He prided himself as a biblical authority and mathematician, all right? I wouldn't doubt that he has a lot of Bible knowledge. Maybe he knows a lot of the Holy Scriptures, the Quran and the Holy Bible, and that he might be a very deep mathematician or Mason, you know, the mathematics, Masonic ones, yeah. When Elijah Muhammad Puli met him, he was passing himself off as a savior and claiming that he was born in Mecca and had arrived in the US only July 4th, 1930. You see, all the different origin stories. In 1933, there was a scandal revolving about the sect involving a human sacrifice, which may or may not have been trumped up. At any rate, the leader was arrested May 25th, 1933, under the name Fard with 8 other listed aliases: W.D. Fard, Wallace Fard, Wally Fard, Professor Ford, etc. There's more. The official report says Dodd admitted that his teachings were strictly a racket and he was getting all the money out of it he could. He was ordered out of Detroit. This is what supposedly, according to the FBI agents, right, that they were interviewing him. He's like, nah, man, I was just, you know, it's a hustle, you know, but hey, don't get mad at me. This is what they're writing, you know, something, you know, we can either dodge the hijack or trust, you know, they wrote it. But again, there's truth in here too in this report. A newspaper article which appeared in the San Francisco Examiner and the Los Angeles Examiner on July 28, 1963, reporter Ed Montgomery of San Francisco claimed to have contacted Dodd's former common law wife, Hazel Barton, or Hazel Dodd, or Hazel Ford. According to this account, Dodd went to Chicago after leaving Detroit and became a traveling suit salesman for a mail-order tailor. In this position, he worked himself across the Midwest and ultimately arrived in Los Angeles in the spring of 1934 in a new car and wearing flowing white robes. He tried to work out a reconciliation with the woman, but she would not agree to one. Incidentally, she said he had sent her considerable amounts of money from time to time. He stayed in Los Angeles for 2 weeks, frequently visiting his son. Then he sold his car and boarded a ship bound for New Zealand, where he said he would visit relatives. All right, this is a story we're getting, a possible disappearance story, right? Possibility. On Sunday, February 28th, 1965, Ed Montgomery wrote a rehash of the above in which he said the Muslims claim police and San Quentin prison records dating back to the early 1920s had been altered and that fingerprints identifying Fard as Dodd had been doctored. Elijah Muhammad said he would have posted a $100,000 reward from any persons who could prove Fard and Dodd were one and the same person. All right, so we read that, you know, he did that, but, you know, they couldn't unprove it. You know, nobody really came with the money, right? Or I think supposedly the FBI did offer it to them or somebody. I don't know. But either way, you know, he's going with the whole, you know, he's Allah, he's from Mecca, a whole different origin story than what they found out about him, you know. The 100,000 never was placed in escrow and the matter was dropped forthwith. All right. That was literally just propaganda for newspapers so they can just defend themselves to and to the eyes of the people, but they never really put up that money, is what they're saying. Montgomery's article says of Dodd's disappearance, Fard, reverting to his true name of Dodd, sailed for Australia. Or where's Waldo? Where's Wally? Waldo Wally. Where's Wally? It says Wallace Dodd Ford, United States government memorandum, date July 31st, 1963. It says the San Francisco Examiner in its final edition for Sunday, July 28th, 1963. On page 1 carries an article by Ed Montgomery captioned, Black Muslim Fake. This article exposes Wallace Fard, subject, founder of the NOI and considered Allah as an enterprising, racketeering fake and a white man. The article was forwarded to the Bureau and a copy has been designated for the NOI file. In this office, if another copy can be made available, it will be filed in this case file. The purpose of this memorandum is to note the existence of the article and where it can be located. Yeah. It says here another office memorandum. Subject Wallace Ford, Chicago, letter to Bureau dated May 2nd, 1963. On May 20th, 1963, State Department of Motor Vehicles, Sacramento advised she is unable to locate any automobile registered to Wallace Ford. She explained that auto registration files are purged in the DMV files 2 years after the last registration of the particular automobile is registered. All right, so something about looking for his cars. It says on May 20, 1963, State Department of the Corrections, Sacramento advised that Donaldson's prison file is at the California Medical facility. All right, so this is something, you know, I guess I don't know how that relates to him, but these are everything they have right here, right? So it says offer memorandum, October 4th, 57, ID officer guidance and exception center, California medical facility made available a photograph of Wally D. Ford, which photo be stated was taken in June 1926 when the subject was received in the reception center. As one of his mugshots stated, his records indicate that the subject was arrested in Detroit, Michigan, their number 45138 on May 25th, 1933 on a charge of investigation. He suggested that the Detroit authorities might have a more recent photo. Says here, Detroit, David D. Fard security matter, NOI. As a result of a recent inspection of the Chicago office, it was suggested that a concerted effort be made to determine the whereabouts of David D. Fard, reportedly the founder of the Nation of Islam, according to speeches and writings of Elijah Muhammad, the national leader of the NOI. Allah came to Detroit, Michigan from Mecca in 1930. So they're quoting Elijah, right? In the person of one W.D. Fard and taught him for 3 years concerning Islam. According to Muhammad, Fard was arrested by the Detroit Police Department in 1933 and shortly thereafter was asked to leave Detroit by the police department. Muhammad claims that Fard continued to teach Islam in Chicago until 1934, at which time Fard disappeared and nothing about him has been heard since that time. Poof, into thin air, guys, like literally. Poof, into thin air, just disappeared into thin air. The files of the Chicago office indicate that W.D. Fard, as well as Don Fard, was arrested as Wallace Fard by the Detroit, Michigan Police Department on May 25th, 1933. So this is when they're putting it all together like, hey, these are the same people. Their number 45138 on a charge of investigation. No disposition was given. The identification record for Fard also indicates that he was arrested by the Los Angeles, California Police Department as Wally Ford, their number 16448 on November 17th, 1918, on a charge of ADW. No disposition was given. Okay, that's another paper right there. It says this record also indicates that Fard was received at the state prison, St. Quentin, California, as Wallace D. Ford. Their number 4231. I can't see what that is. On June 26, 1926, on a charge of violation of the Poison Act. This position given 0 to 6 years, May 26, 1933. Other entries on the FBI identification record are Wally, Los Angeles, California, WA sale, $400 or 180 days. Wally Ford, Los Angeles, California, WA possession, March 4, 1926, $1 or 1 day. March 4, 1926, additional aliases listed are Wallace Ford and WD Fard. The following is a description as furnished by the Detroit Police Department. Their number, all right? This is how they describe him. Race, so-called white, all right? White. Age 33. In 1933, wow. Weight 127. Height 5'6", 1/4. He's slim. Hair is black. Eyes are maroon. Nationality Arabian. Arabian, huh? That's what they were saying. He's from Mecca. According to the FBI identification record, additional information in the file of the Bureau indicate birthplace as Oregon. So is he from Oregon or is he Arabian? Occupation cook. Nationality American. Complexion dark, yeah. To very pale skinned people, yeah, he's darker. Scars and marks. Small scar back of left hand, black mole right side of stomach. Detroit is requested to review the indices of their office for any pertinent information concerning W.D. Fard or Wallace Don Fard, Wallace Fard. Detroit is also requested to review records of the Detroit Police Department, their number 45138, and certain circumstances concerning Fard's arrest on May 25, 1933, and disposition thereof to furnish Chicago a photograph if available. Says here, Los Angeles is requested to review Los Angeles Police Department record number 16448 and advise Chicago of the circumstances surrounding the arrest of Fard or ADW and disposition thereof. It is also requested that a photograph is available be furnished. San Francisco is requested to contact officials at San Quentin Prison and review their file 42314 and advise Chicago circumstances surrounding the incarceration of Fard and, if available, furnish a photograph. It is requested, so this is when they're trying to get all these permissions and all the records, right? Okay, we have an actual picture of this, the real picture. Let me see, okay. Let me show you guys. That's the picture right here. So this is the cover to part 3 of the series. And that's the image right there. That's one of them, right? The mold that's on his right cheek and everything. This is where his hair cut now. So that's what they're trying to show right here. Okay. This is Federal Bureau of Investigation, United States Department of Justice, Allah Temple of Islam, etc. Selective Service. They just blacked this out in the beginning. So several years later in 1931, while walking down the street in Detroit, according to Bogans. So Bogans is Elijah Muhammad. That's one of the aliases he had, or other names he had. He met Allah, right? We're gonna get his story on a future. We're gonna get his version, from his mouth. Elijah's how, who W.D. Fard is to him and how he met him and what happened. So he said he met Allah because that's who he said he was. This person was known to him as Wallace D. Fard and the living God. Allah has proved to be very much of a human being since he has an arrest record in the identification division of the FBI. W.D. Fard taught Elijah that the Negroes were Muslims, as were all of the dark races. and that by registering with the Nation of Islam, the colored people would be given their correct names from Mecca, and their slave names would be taken from them. All right. So we talked about this, right? Like now he's grouping all so-called black folks or even all dark-skinned people in the world as Muslims. Are you a Muslim just because you're so-called black or colored? And then they're saying that you're gonna take away your name, which is your family's historical name, lineage. You know, these last names connect you to American Indian people. They connect you to Black Europeans. You know, they connect you to a lot of history that you'd be leaving out that are part of your ancestry, thinking these are just slave names. All right. So this is what we're just trying to correct and help out with to understand. Okay. So it says members again discard their slave names, right? And then they take on the Mecca names. So Fard also instructed that Muslims were not to participate in military matters since they are registered and are citizens of the Nation of Islam. In 1934, Fard disappeared, and none of his followers will admit having seen him since that time. In his absence, Elijah Poole, now known as Gulan Bogans or Muhammad Rasul, thus Elijah, and his helpers have been carrying on the leadership of the group. Temples of Islam have been opened in Milwaukee, Chicago, and Washington, D.C., in addition to the original temple in Detroit. All right. And then we got this record right here. It says the Allah Temple of Islam, an organization of American Negroes, was founded by one W.D. Fard in 1930. This organization has functioned since that date in Chicago, Milwaukee, Cleveland, Washington, D.C., and other places. The organization has been strongly pro-Japanese, and its leaders counseled the members to refuse to register for selective service by telling them that they are already registered in Mecca. Elijah Muhammad, Chicago, Illinois, was also known as the Prophet and was the national leader. Pauline Bahar is the national secretary. Leaders of the temple located in Milwaukee, Washington, D.C., and Chicago were convicted for selective service violations and were also indicted for sedition. All right. So, you know, you don't, go when you get drafted. But, that's everybody got their own reasons why they don't want to be part of the military. But, they're going after them because they're saying, no, we pro-Japanese too. Like, and they were. That's the whole part of the history of the Nation of Islam, their connections with the Japanese, right? Muslims or government at that time, which was a lot. There was some big connections there. It says the Chicago file. There's the numbers of the Allah Temple of Islam was founded in 1929 or 1930. Exact date not being known by W.D. Fard of Detroit, Michigan. Fard, whose exact identity has been established, was arrested by the Detroit Police Department in 1933 in connection with the cult activities of the Temple of Islam in that city. Fard had been serving a short sentence. He disappeared and has not been heard from since 1934. He assumed the title of Allah and prior to his departure designated Elijah Muhammad at Chicago, Illinois as the prophet. Temples of the organization were founded in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Detroit, Michigan, Cleveland, Ohio, Washington, D.C., and Chicago, Illinois. There may be various members represented in cities other than the above named. Okay. As all members were told not to register for the draft as they were already registered in Mecca. They were also told that they could not fight in the white man's war, but that they should remain to help the Japanese and all dark races in their fight for supremacy. The organization has had many beliefs which are fanatical, including a belief that Japan has had for many years a monster airplane, known to the Muslims as a mother airplane. Listen, the mother airplane is said to carry 1,000 small airplanes, each of which carries bombs which will be used against the white man. Each bomb is said to be such size to penetrate the Earth's surface for a distance of 1 mile and to destroy an area of 50 square miles when it explodes. The Muslims have also told their people that the Japanese have superior equipment of every kind and description. Members of the Temple of Islam attend meetings on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sunday. Friday is designated as holy day for the Muslims. The members of the organization are not permitted to eat meat of any kind, but are permitted to eat fish. Members also must undergo frequent periods of fasting and have been told that one meal per day is sufficient. The women members of the organization wear long gowns, almost touching the ground. Each woman has several gowns, which are of solid red, green, and white in colors. In addition, the women members also wear turbans, which match the gowns. The women are told to keep their heads fully covered at all times. The male members of subject organization wear ordinary civilian clothes and do not wear customs for any sort. Some of the male members wear buttons indicating their membership in the Temple of Islam. All members of subject organization have a belief in Allah. Also, Mr. W.D. Fard, and contend that this individual will return to help them liberate themselves from the yoke of the white man's rule. Right? So, that's according to that, how people saw them, right? Too, and what they were hearing from the people. All right, so Federal Bureau of Investigation, and a little bit here, we can barely read. It says subject advised he had registered with Wallace Fard in 1932 in Detroit, Michigan, as a member of the Nation of Islam. Alas survived Fard had instructed after registering with him that he should not register with any other government. Now remember what we learned, what we were reading in another video, how it's most possible that before he started his own thing and ended up meeting Elijah, and that both of them were coming from the Moorish Science Temple of America. They were listening to some of Drew Ali's teachings, or maybe just some of the and that he was actually what's it called, a minister. Remember, as David Ford, and he was in charge of the Chicago temple. We're talking about W.D. Fard. Let's not forget what we learned in the previous parts, right? It says subject stated that he had registered with the Nation of Islam in 1932 with Mr. Wallace Fard, known to him as Allah. Subject stated that Fard had told him and other members of the Nation of Islam that he had come to Detroit directly from the holy city of Mecca. All right, again, one of his origins, according to Elijah, located somewhere in Asia. Subject further related that upon registering with Fard, the letter had advised him that the name, and is blacked out, which was the name given subject at the time of his birth, was actually his slave name. Given his family at the time, they were placed in a state of slavery. At the time, subject registered with Fard, the latter told him, as well as all other individuals who registered with him, that inasmuch as they had registered with Fard and the Nation of Islam, that they should not register with any other government, inasmuch as they were citizens of the Nation of Islam and could serve only one nation, and that if they registered with any other nation, they could not be good Muslims, inasmuch as they would be attempting to serve two governments at the same time. Subject stated that he therefore had refused to register for selective service, inasmuch as he would be acting in violation of the instructions he had received from Fard to the effect that he should not register with another government. At this time, subject was questioned. He stated that Fard had not specifically told him or any of the other members of the local temple of the Nation of Islam not to register for selective service, but he had told the subject and the other members not to register for anything with any other government. Subject also stated that in his opinion, he owed allegiance only to the Nation of Islam and was not a citizen of the United States. Subject further related that in his opinion, the colored people are still slaves actually, although they are not regarded so by the white people of this country. He stated that the basis for this opinion was the fact that colored people are not able to eat, sleep, or do anything else in the same places with whites people, and that unless such practices are abolished, colored people are still slaves in fact. And I get, we can agree with that part right there for sure. So that's why a lot of people, I get white people joined, and it made them better people, and helped them to be able to stand up and fight for their civil rights in a way. Uh, it wasn't always the case though. There was a time when it was all you. You were the governors. You were the founding fathers. You were the American Indians. You were the surveyors. You were the mayors. You were the Congress. You were the presidents. All right. Just want you to remember that. So subject at this time, he was interviewed, stated that he did not regard himself as a Negro, but as an Asiatic, and that if he had sufficient money, he would like to go back to Asia. Subject further related that the Islam religion stands for freedom, justice, and equality, and for furtherance of people in the world, and that he therefore has no interest in the present war or its outcome, and cares to have nothing to do with the war effort whatsoever. At the time the subject was interviewed, it was explained to him that the government had provided for individuals who are opposed to participation in actual warfare, but allowing them to make a claim for deferment as a conscientious objector, but that subject stated that he would, and it keeps going here, let me see, he would, stated that at the time he entered the Temple of Islam in 1932, W.D. Fard was in charge of the temple. He stated that Fard is known as the Prophet and also as Allah. He advised that Fard predicted the present war, stating that Germany and the dark races of the world would be fighting against all the white races sometime at a future date. Is that what was really happening? Listen, that might be some drop. As to the outcome of the war, he predicted that the white races would be beaten down and that a dark race would step in and take complete control. Hey, maybe it did happen. According to Fard, also stated that the members of the Temple of Islam would be better off if the darker races won the war. Stated that Fard predicted that in the war to come, all persons in the United States would be called upon to register in order that they might fight for the United States. Fard told the people that inasmuch as they were not citizens of the United States but citizens of Islam, there would be nothing that would require them to register. That Fard told him that whether they should register or not would be a question which each individual would have to decide in his own mind. He also advised that Fard told the people to line up with the darker races when the war comes. As to the present activities of the Temple of Islam, advised that the local chapter has about 35 active members and compared with approximately 800 at one time. Of the present 35, approximately 14 are men and the remainder are women and children. He stated that for quite some time now, Wali Muhammad has been the teacher in the temple. He denied emphatically that Muhammad ever allowed the war to be discussed in the temple. He also denied that Wali Muhammad had ever told any person that he should not register for selective service. You see, he never told anybody to not do that, supposedly. Stated that no one had ever told him that he should not register and that he used his own judgment in deciding to register. He stated that all of the meetings are strictly religious meetings, the form of government of other countries and any questions dealing with the war have no place in the temple. Stated that he had not heard the Japanese people mentioned in the temple since approximately 1933 when W.D. Fard left the temple. All right. And all these blacked out documents. Yeah. Hope you're enjoying the little reading we hear. Just reading through these, released files, FBI and police records. So, like it says here, Fard founded the Temple of Islam in Detroit, where Temple is located. Number 2 is in Chicago. Fard told his followers that he came to this country July 4th, 1936. That's what he told people when he was already living in Los Angeles and Portland and all these places. Remember? So he was, is that a white lie or is that a black lie? Or what kind of lie is that? But is it a lie? Yes or no? He was supposed to have been 57 years old at that time. Subject last saw him in 1934 in Chicago when Fard left to return to Mecca. Thereafter, subject said Elijah Poole ran the temple. I guess they're telling a story here. Some of the teachings, it says the original inhabitants of the earth were black according to the subject. Right? We can agree that in general, people way more melanated in original times. Yes, the Caucasian race got started through grafting performed by a black scientist named Jacob. So you see, here comes the Jacob story. So this is what they're talking about here. All right, let me see, what's this one? This is what they're requesting information from the Directive Bureau to the Allah Temple. Dear sir, it is requested that a wanted notice be placed in the files of the Identification Division against the record of the following individual. Name, Wallace Fard. Aliases, W. Fard, Allah. The above individuals wanted for questioning. In the event of apprehension of this individual, notify the Chicago field office, all right? Like a warrant for his address, right? All right, pretty cool. Pretty interesting, these files. The Moorish, now check this out. Director, Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Moorish Temple of Science of America. So you know they were messing with them too. It says, dear sir, it says the Moorish Temple of America, Allah Temple of Islam, internal security. So this is for all of them. In respect to, in regards to this, right? In respect to the Bureau letter dated October 16, 1942, requesting that a determination be made as to whether or not there was any connection between the two subjects organizations. The Moorish Temple of Science of America is a religious group founded by Noble Drew Ali in 1929. Ali died in 1934, and the leadership of the organization was taken over by Charles Kirkman Bey, who resides at headquarters of the organization are located at 1032 Orleans Street, Chicago. The organization was incorporated under the laws of the state of Illinois, July 20th, 1920, is that 5 or 8? The organization was approximately 1,500 members and 56 chapters located in various parts of the United States. Investigation shows the members to be registered for selective service, and all members disclaim any affiliation with the Allah Temple of Islam. Investigation of the Moorish Temple of Science of America fails to disclose any un-American activity. There is, however, a schism within the organization, a group headed by Jesse Shelby L., Chicago, Illinois, apparently as a clandestine group of the Moors, according to Charles Kirkman Bey. Charles Kirkman Bey filed an injunction against Shelby in the Cook County Court, April 8, 1934, to stop all activities of Shelby's group. Court action is pending on the injunctions. All right, so they're fighting amongst each other. You know, what's left over after Drew Ali, you know, people trying to take control of the leadership. So the investigation failed to reflect that and blacked out in any way, or an organizer of the Moorish Temple of Science of America says investigation shows that the Allah Temple of Islam was founded by W.D. Farad in Detroit, Michigan in the early 1930s. Says something about whereabouts is unknown. The organization is presently headed by Elijah Muhammad, who is presently under a 3-year sentence for violation of the Selective Service Act at Chicago, Illinois, and who is presently to be tried under violation of the Sedition Act. Within recent months, the local leaders of the Allah Temple of Islam have also been arrested for evading the Selective Service Act and the Sedition Statute. Also, approximately 65 members were arrested in Chicago, and a large volume of records and literature was confiscated. This is when they're really being targeted, you know. So this is about Elijah Poole, I guess. Elijah Muhammad. Says Muhammad has done most of the talking at meetings held between September 11th and September 18th, 1942, stating that the Japanese are their brothers. All right, the Japanese is our brothers. This is what Elijah Muhammad is saying, and that the flag of Islam and Japan are similar. On September 19, 1942, authorized complaints were filed before U.S. Commissioner Edwin K. Walker at Chicago, Illinois, charging subject Elijah Muhammad with violation of Section 33, Title 50, sedition, and Muhammad with violation of Section 34, Title 50, conspiracy. Prior departmental authority was obtained by U.S. Attorney Chicago. On same date, a search warrant was obtained to search the third floor of 104 East 51st Street, Chicago, Illinois, the meeting place of subject organization. Subject Muhammad and were taken in custody by Bureau agents on September 20, 1942. All right, these are like the arrest files, you know, pretty crazy. The fall investigation was conducted by reporting agent. And so this is a little info on Muhammad, his origin that he told them, supposedly. Okay, and this is where he's saying he's from Georgia, where he grew up. All right, I, Elijah, make the following statement. I was born in Sunderville, Georgia. okay, 1897. Married Clara Evans, Cordell. And he says his pool name comes from supposedly a white family, but when we look at his genealogy, because he says right here, let me show you. I was known as Elijah Poole. I attended school. Hold on. It says, I have never known the exact day or month of my birth because my mother was not able to remember it. My grandparents worked as slaves for a white family by the name of Poole. Your grandparents, right? I got Elijah Poole right here. So his grandparent would be Irwin and Vinny, right? Irvin and Vinny. When we go into Irvin or Irwin, there is a death certificate here. Irvin Poole, Washington County, same place that they're living, right? The parents Mark Poole and Mildred Poole. So he didn't get the name from so-called white man. So not sure why he's saying that. That's what they told him maybe, or that's what he believed, or that's just the story to hate the so-called white man. All right. But I know that they were working possibly under people, you know, working as indentures or even on their family's farm or whatever. Okay, possible sharecroppers. But I just wanted to show that because he just, you know, supposedly that's what he told them. And then how he ended up in Detroit working for the different companies. We got this on the previous drop. We got all this info right here. His whole story. And we're gonna probably get a little bit more in some other chapters of the book. Yeah. Let's see. So it's a lot of pages. You guys saw how many pages were here. Okay. Look at this. It says the speaker who had talked about the parable then made a long talk about the Son of Man who had come from the east. This Son of Man could not be the devil, Son of Man, but rather the Muslim Son of Man. He indicated that W.D. Farad was the Son of Man he was referring to. Farad apparently was personally in the Holy Land of Mecca, but he came to North America in 1930 or 1934. This is according to Elijah Muhammad's story of Farad, which we've proven, like, no, like, you know, again, he is Wallace Fard, the guy who got arrested in Los Angeles and the mugshots and all that. Same fingerprints. Yeah, tricknology. Yeah, tricknology. Get it? It's, yeah. Who's the trick on? He came by himself because he was all powerful and had the power of the universe in his right hand. He came because he was all powerful. He came to deliver the tribe of Islam and not the Caucasians. The tribe of Islam, huh? Many prophets had previously come to rescue the white man, but the white devil would not obey. The white devil must be killed, and the Muslims will kill them. You see that? The white devil is a snake and is not good. The white devil has been grafted from the black man and does not have the strength the black man has. Devil can't do right and wasn't going to do right. The Son of Man will destroy the devil and give the black man peace and happiness. All those who did not fall in line with the Muslims will be destroyed. There will be no room for them. The meeting broke up shortly before 4 o'clock. That's what they were telling. Yeah. This confidential informant furnished the following report concerning the meeting of subject organization held August 23rd, 1942. The meeting started with the customary call to attention, the opening prayer said by the preacher. So this is an informant they had there as testimony. Let's see what it says here. There's another speaker stated the term mukmuk, something high praise, and apparently is one of the usual surnames used by the Muslims. One of the male speakers gave a talk lasting for about 35 minutes concerning the coming of the Son of Man. He stated that the Son of Man would rise in the east and come to the west and will teach wisdom to the Muslims. He called the Bible the poison book. So W.D. Farad, also known as Mukmuk, apparently is the Son of Man, who is now in the east in the holy city of Mecca, which is heaven. The only heaven there is Mecca. This Son of Man came to the wilderness of North America by himself because he was all-powerful. He held the power of the universe in his right hand. The Son of Man came for the deliverance of the lost tribe of Islam. and not to serve the Caucasian as the white man is the devil. The devil has streams of prophets who have been able. So it's the same foundational story we just read, just from a different person. That's what they. That's what literally they were teaching people in their right, their sermons. You know, is it all about color? Do all white folks are they all the same? Are all black folks the same? You know, and so it just goes into a deeper thought right there. You know, we're talking about beliefs in religion, and we're talking about the complexity of genealogy of your ancestry. All right, so some undeveloped leads continued. We got some stuff blacked out. Will exhibit their photographs to witnesses who have seen the Japanese at the Temple of Subject Organization. The Japanese, meaning with the Japanese, will report the further results of the mail cover. Will exhibit photograph of W.D. Farad to determine whether or not Farad and Beeman are identical. Huh. The premises of 6026 Vernon Street, which is said to be address of W.D. Farad, will make an effort to determine who the individual known, and all this is blacked out. Says will maintain surveillance of 104 East 51st Street at the time of the meetings, there to ascertain whether or not any Japanese attend these meetings. Will attempt to ascertain the identity of these Japanese. Will identify the persons residing at 6026 Vernon Avenue, Chicago, as believed these premises are occupied by members of the organization and are possible selective service violators. All right, so they're stalking them. You see this stuff? This is how they legally harass people. You know, they get the paperwork done. Like, we're just gonna be doing this. We're gonna be doing that. We're gonna be doing this. You know, just in case. So, Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Allah Temple. Talking about the temple, right? Reference report furnishes a background of subject organization together with its activities. Wallace D. Fard discovered the networks. So real quick, this is kind of like the main stuff you get when you research, you know, on the internet. Like, we've gone over books and stuff, you know, a lot of we got the genealogy a little bit. This is the origins of Wallace Fard Muhammad. This is from discoverthenetworks.org. Founder of the First Nation of Islam, mosques in the United States are somewhat unclear. He was also known by at least 5 additional names: Wali Farad, Farad Muhammad, F. Muhammad Ali, Wallace Farad, and Wallace Fard. The year of his birth is disputed, from 1877 to the 1890s, as is his birthplace: Oregon, New Zealand, New York, Mecca, California, West Indies, and let's not forget Afghanistan, India, Pakistan, you know, and his ethnicity: British, Polynesian, Arab, African American, Hindu, you know, Eastern Indian, you know, all that. Which the FBI, which maintained that both of WFM's parents were white, identified by his fingerprints as Wally D. Fard, an ex-convict from Portland, Oregon. His common-law wife claimed that he was born to Polynesian and English parents in New Zealand, and NOI contends that WFM was Allah himself, incarnated as the savior of the black race. Thus, the organization celebrates February 26, WFM's putative birthday, as Savior's Day each year. W.F. Wallace Muhammad claimed that he was born in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. So again, this is according to Elijah, to wealthy parents in the tribe of Quraysh, which was also the tribe of Islam's 7th century founder. The Prophet Muhammad, according to the Detroit Metro Times, Fard had an East Indian appearance and was a dapper dresser with perfect white teeth and dark eyes. He told followers he was born in the holy city of Mecca, and his light-skinned appearance, courtesy of his Russian Jewish mother, Keza, was preordained so that he could more easily mix with white people. Now we're gonna get that story from Elijah. That's who was really saying this. He claimed to have attended Oxford and the University of California, and then to have begun training as a diplomat for the Kingdom of Hijaz. All right, this is again according to Elijah. We got the whole breakdown in the previous parts. All right, here you go. any hurt feelings. And you know, this ain't about this ain't personal. It's not about hurting your feelings. Okay, history is history. It don't matter what color they are. Well, we talk about things that a lot of people don't like to talk about when it comes to historical parts of it too, not just gossip. All right, I'm not just gossiping here, just in case anybody watching is having a problem with what they're hearing or what we're reading. So the FBI has him living or place of birth in 1891 in New Zealand and show that he first arrived in the United States in 1913 when he briefly settled in Portland, Oregon. He then proceeded to make money variously as a restaurateur, gambler, bootlegger, and traveling salesman. According to FBI records as well, WFM in 1918 was arrested in Los Angeles, where he had lived since 1913. This is what we're reading right now. This is what we've been seeing, these files for assault with a deadly weapon, but he was released soon thereafter. He was again arrested in January 1926 for bootlegging, which was a violation of California state law at that time. The following month, Wallace was sent to San Quentin State Prison near San Francisco for violating the State Poison Act, which outlawed the use and sale of narcotics like cocaine. He was released in May 1929 after attaining a high rank in the Moorish Science Temple of America. Listen, Wallace Muhammad first appeared in Detroit, Michigan on July 4, 1930 under the alias David Ford. That's how he was known as David Ford amongst the Moorish Science Americans people, right? Where he was one of their high-ranked ministers, the Chicago Temple, David Ford. There, he worked as a door-to-door salesman, peddling umbrellas and what he claimed were African silks to the large black population of Detroit's Paradise Valley section. He also strove to promote certain religious beliefs and dietary principles in an effort to bolster both the spiritual and physical well-being of his black clients, whom he described as people lost in the wilderness of North America. He gained a reputation as a healer when his customers, after having adhered to the pork-free diet that Fard espoused, began noticing improvements in their health, said the Detroit Metro Times. Moreover, Wallace Muhammad in Detroit founded an organization called the Allah Temple of Islam, which he would later rename as the Nation of Islam, NOI. He exhorted blacks to return to the Islamic faith, which he and the Nation of Islam characterized as the religion of their ancestors. So this is, saying all so-called blacks were Muslims and Islam was your religion and that's your heritage only. In his early teachings, Wallace Fard attracted followers by using the Bible since most blacks were familiar with it at the time. Elijah Muhammad, his eventual successor, once recalled that Wallace Fard knew the Bible better than any of the Christian-bred Negroes. So we kind of got all of this in the previous parts. I'm just reading this as a review, since we're reading the files again. And I know a lot of people don't watch all the parts in order. All right. So then starts talking about his theology and Jacob and all that. It says that Wallace Fard was able to find listeners, let alone converts, speaks volumes about his target audience and the tenor of his times. Black separatist movements had become embedded in the intellectual landscape of the 1920s. For example, Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association advocated black self-reliance and a return to Africa. Timothy Drew's Moorish Temple of Science insisted on the Asiatic Islamic origin of the black race and fostered esoteric doctrines of black supremacy. Thomas Drew. Blacks who had migrated to America's northern cities to find employment and escape the South's repressive Jim Crow laws and the re-emerging KKK in the aftermath of World War I found themselves deprived of the deep cultural and spiritual roots of their churches and their homes. Consequently, by 1930, as the Great Depression began to exact its toll on workers of all classes, some found hope in Wallace Fard Muhammad's racist separatist cant. The FBI noted that when Wallace Fard met Elijah Muhammad in 1931, he was positing himself as a savior, Allah in human form, and claiming that he spoke 16 languages and had extracted the language of the people on Mars. Mars, the people on Mars, huh? In addition, Wallace Fard taught Elijah Muhammad that Judaism was a dirty religion because immediately after the Jews had received the divine scripture written in Arabic, he claimed they started tampering with its truth and transformed those scriptures into graveyard of my poor people, the so-called Negroes of America, who were the real chosen people of God, the true lost sheep of the Bible. And not because they're from Mecca or because they were slaves in the West African slave trade. It's a different reason. America's the true old world. Yeah, this is the true Holy Lands. Yeah, true Holy Land. Yep. Well, you'll find well, I'm gonna try to ignore the chat. All right. So a little bit more on Fard here about his incident, the sacrifice and everything, and how he just disappeared out of nowhere. So we go back to, hold on, let me see here. Go back to the Chicago files. Okay, let's see if we can find something here. They're talking about the succession and who was in charge after. Okay, let's explain. And more notes of what they're going to do. This is the same thing we're reading over. Kindly furnish the known criminal record of the following. They're asking for records here. But Wallace Don Fard. So more on the, how they're keeping tracks on him, what he founded, how many people are there. Yeah, so this is more info on what the operations, what they tell people. It says prosecution has been authorized in the Eastern District of Michigan against Wali Muhammad on 2 counts. First, charging him with failure to register for selective service. Second, concealing, aiding, and abetting others of draft age to evade registering for service. The matter of the prosecution of Wali Muhammad is being carried in Detroit File 253670 and the case entitled Wali Muhammad with aliases. So this is when he didn't want to go get drafted. So I can see that, why people don't want to go fight in their wars. Okay, and then they're saying that he was influencing everybody else not to do it, but then they're saying he never told us that, but you guys were kind of using him. And he got in trouble for that. So the check of records of the Identification Division of the Detroit Police Department indicate that Wallace Fard, alias Ford, Detroit Police Department, number 4513, was arrested for conversion, and that his FBI number is 56062. Wallace Fard, alias Ford, is identical with W.D. Fard, alias Allah. Photographs of W.D. Fard were obtained, and one copy is being forwarded as an enclosure for each office receiving copies of this report. A photograph was made of the Islam flag, which was in the meeting room of the temple at 623 Mudbury Street, and a copy of that photograph is being forwarded as an enclosure with a copy of this report to each office. So enclosures to the bureau, and each office receives copies of this report. And so trying to get photos of him and everything. They had a lot of drop on him, and the whole thing about his fingerprints matching all the other people named almost exactly the same. That's not a coincidence. They look literally almost the same. That's the photos. We've broken that down in the last previous parts here. That's very hard to see right here. So this is according to Elijah again. We got that already, according to Bogans. And this is when they're dealing with the Japanese. This is one of them here, Satohata Takahashi. This is according to FBI. It says a Japanese who once was accused of organizing Negroes to overthrow the white race of the United States was jailed yesterday by immigration authorities in the house where Takahashi was seized. Officers said they found a large quantity of subversive literature. Takahashi was charged with re-entering the country that once had been deported after having been deported. But I have read the above, consider approximately 2 pages that is true. Okay, so this is how they were investigating them. And yeah, they were dealing with the Japanese guys. Yep, you can look that up. So this is a statement supposedly by Bogans, who is Elijah. All right. Reference report says for the Muslims organization consisting of colored people was very active in the city. Okay, so yeah, you guys can see it's a lot of info in here. Right. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna copy this link right here. I'm gonna post it in the chat right now. All right. I'm also gonna, after the live is done, I'm gonna put the link in the description of the video for you guys to be able to see it yourself, read the rest of it, because it kind of keeps going over the same thing over and over. You know, you might find some more drop than I do, just reading it thoroughly on your own. But just wanted to show you guys that these are real files. They were mentioned in these files in the last parts we were on. So I wanted you guys to see it, and also in the next parts coming, they're gonna reference these files again. So now you guys have an idea of what we're talking about, and you guys can see these are real declassified files from the FBI. We're at the vaults.fbi.gov website. Okay, this is, you know, there's a lot of videos with these files, you know, from people from the Nation of Islam, you know, themselves posting this. That's where I realized, you know, I saw one of those videos. I was like, wow, look at all the files he got. Yeah. So St. Quentin, Los Angeles, records reflect that while in that institution, letters were received attesting to Ford's good character from the following individuals. Look at all the people writing on his behalf. Yeah. So there's still some pretty good detailed information here. Muslim code, Elijah Muhammad. So yeah, you know, we don't call people's beliefs a code, you know. You know, hopefully it's not a code like we think as a code just means a secret, right? Or a code or not for the public, something like that. But when it gets to dark stuff or dark practices or sacrifices or ritual, now that's something else. But again, I'll leave it right there. The link is on the chat for you guys. We're gonna end it right there. I'm gonna come back with a lot more info and reading more books and more interesting info. Hopefully connecting all this on a bigger scale with this whole big not African, but pan-Islamic movement that was going on with in the inner cities and the hoods and you know, in the black neighborhoods, you know, trying to get as many converts as possible. There was literally people being sent to push this pan-Islamic thing, not just a pan-African thing, you know. And we've talked about this before, right? And we're gonna get kind of like back into that. I'm gonna show, you know, where all these groups literally coming out of. You guys see that a lot of these people have the same origin, or we're dealing with the same people as they were moving through the ranks, you know, learning from each other, and then they would go on and start their own movement or their own organization slash hustle slash hustle, if right. All right, so yeah, it is very important part of history, I think, to understand. I think, you know, people will say, hey, you know, they only could do what they could do it for their time, and they didn't know what they were, you know, they were doing it with good hearts. I mean, you know, after looking at all the information and everything, and just like, why would you lie? Well, why don't you just, if you're really about, you would just say, hey, look, I was a different person before. I had a bad past, and I found, you know, Allah, and now you know, I'm trying to be a different person. That's a whole different thing. But you know, it's just like all the different origin stories and all the saying, oh, that's not him. When we know it, like you look at the photos, it's him. It's literally him. And no denying it when you see the photos, and you know, they had the fingerprints and everything matching. Yeah, what is a hustle? Good question, man. You know, so again, this saying nothing personal. All right. I appreciate you guys tuning in, listen to me read a little bit of these files. Hope you enjoy. If you wanted these files for your own, reading them yourself, see what else you find in there. Right? Look at all this info we didn't go over, but it's kind of all the same. As I read it, just like info they had on them. Yeah, like Peter Pan, Pan. But remember, Pan, the deity Pan, was related to ancient America, right? We got that already. We got that already. Yeah, the FBI files. All of the above carry the same fingerprints. In all cases, he is listed as a Caucasian. Caucasian. Hmm. Let's see. Yeah, appreciate you guys. I was sorry, I was just looking for a sign to go out with. Little tune. Appreciate you guys taking the time to tune in. All right, I'll give you your Friday evening back. Have a rest of your a good evening and a strong end, not a weekend, a strong end. So you can have a strong beginning, not a weak beginning. All right. Hawa blessings for everybody. Much love. Pura vida, mi gente. Pura vida, mi gente. Wow.